Hello everyone, my name is Barninger and I'm here with Myotrend today to bring you a salmon recipe. Salmon is commonly used in the bodybuilding world or people want prep or dieting because it's high in omega-3s, which are good fats, it's high in protein, and it's also delicious. So today I'm going to show you how to make a quick, simple, easy recipe so that you can stay on track. The first thing we're going to want to do is preheat the oven to around 375 degrees. In addition to that, we're going to bring this is a 5-quart stock pot. We're actually going to bring that to a boil. So we're going to set it here on high heat. And we're putting the lid on it because what it's going to do, it's actually going to come to a boil quicker because you're trapping all that heat in there. So this is actually going to be used for some of our starches and vegetables later on. So to begin, we have 4 parts to this recipe. It includes our salmon, a beet, our purple, yellow, and orange carrots, as well as some Brussels sprouts. So like I said, this is super simple. You only have 4 primary ingredients. So I'm going to start with the protein, the salmon first, and we're going to get to it. With salmon, you can really get it from anywhere. And there's a bunch of different varieties. You can get sockeye salmon, farm-raised salmon, or Atlantic salmon. I opted for Atlantic salmon here just because it's a meatier whole fish. In addition to that, you can get salmon in long kind of like the long fillets, or you can get it actually pre-portioned. I opted to get it pre-portioned. Salmon really isn't that hard to cut if you have the whole fillet, but just easier, quicker, and they do it for you right in the store. So we're actually gonna pull this out. And these are 6-ounce fillets with the skin on. And I opted to leave the skin on because I'll show you why later on. And here what I have is about a tablespoon of salt and one of my favorite ingredients, which is smoked paprika. So paprika is one of those ingredients that doesn't really have a lot of flavor, but when you smoke it, it adds like another layer to your final product. So that's why I opted to use it in this dish. And what we're gonna do is, for skin side up, we're gonna take about half a teaspoon and sprinkle that down the fish. Before you cook anything, any protein for that matter, so fish, meat, chicken, you wanna season it prior to actually cooking it. This will actually help cook the flavor into the fish. In addition to that, with any meat, you actually wanna allow it to come to room temperature. It's called tempering it. And what that'll do is, it'll allow the fish to come to one solid temperature, because if you just pull it out of the refrigerator and throw it in the pan, the outside's gonna be warm, but the inside's gonna be cold. So when you cook it, the inside may not be done. So you wanna let it come up to room temperature for about 10 to 15 minutes, and that'll ensure that you cook the fish evenly through. So I can hear a water boiling, so what we're gonna do is we're actually just gonna turn it off, leave that lid on so it stays hot, so when we get to our next ingredients, we can just pull the lid off and throw them in there. So for the next ingredient we're gonna prep, it's actually gonna be the Brussels sprouts. So for this entire recipe, we're gonna have about 6 to 8 ounces of Brussels sprouts. And as you can see, when Brussels sprouts come whole, they're very dense and raw, and they have this stem on the bottom of them. So for prep of the Brussels sprouts, what we do is we grab our knife, we cut that bottom off, and you don't have to have them, but for the purpose of cooking and making it easier in the presentation, I'm actually going to cut these in half. So pretty quick and easy to do. Just remove the stem, cut the sprout in half, set your waste to the side. So as you may notice, I actually didn't use a lot of, any traditional starch in this recipe, such as the potato or rice or quinoa. And that's because carrots, as well as beets, are root vegetables. So a root vegetable is obviously something that grows in the ground. However, a potato is a root vegetable, a sweet potato is a root vegetable, a parsnip. So those are actually pretty calorie-dense foods and carbohydrate-dense foods. So I didn't feel the need to include another starch in here. So next what we're gonna do, we're gonna grab our bowl, throw the Brussels sprouts in there, and throw it in our boiling water. Remember, we turned the heat off last time, so we're actually gonna turn that back on so it stays boiling. And we're gonna set a timer for about 5 to 6 minutes. Once again, carrots are root vegetables, so that's why they have this long stem, because they actually grow in the ground. So what they do is, it's growing in the ground, they come by and they pull the carrot out of the ground by the stem. But we actually don't need any of that stem. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna chop it all off. In addition, a common mistake is people will just take vegetables, cut them, throw them in some water, throw them in a pan to cook them, maybe roast them, without understanding that vegetables normally grow in either the dirt on a tree, or they may still have pesticides on them. So with any vegetable, it's a good custom to actually wash them before you do anything with them. So as you saw, I cut the stem off, and what I'm gonna do next is throw them in a colander and run them under some cold water. What's the difference between a colander and a strainer? So most would call this a strainer. However, this is a colander. And the primary difference is this is plastic. It has slotted holes in it. However, a strainer is normally mesh and has very, very fine holes in it. A colander is used for things such as vegetables. A strainer is used for something such as a sauce, if you want to thin it out and make it really smooth. We're just rinsing them, bringing them back over to our cutting board, and I'm going to show you how to cut them now. So since these are thin, kind of small carrots, as opposed to this one, which is a lot thicker, we can actually just do a kind of a one cut on this. So to start, we're going to remove the top, we're going to remove the bottom, set that off to the side. The same for this carrot. Same for our orange carrot here. Next thing, carrots have an outside that's pretty rough. So what we're gonna do is actually take a peeler, just run it down the back of them, to peel the skin off the back of them. So next we're going to take these carrots and cut them on a bias. So on a bias basically means on an angle. So we're gonna pick about a 40 to 45 degree angle and just cut down them really nicely. And you wanna keep each cut as consistent as possible just so they cook evenly. And as you saw, the carrot goes from big to small. So as we go down this carrot, I'm actually gonna make these chunks bigger, and you'll see that here. That off to the side. So at this point, our Brussels sprouts are done. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna strain these. So we're removing the lid. We're gonna grab our colander with our bowl, set it off to the side, pick up the Brussels, and pour away from you. You wanna pour away from you because if it splashes, you don't want boiling hot water all over you. Now, a side note, why did I put these in a bowl with the colander over top? And that's because I wanted to save this water. We're gonna be boiling carrots as well as beets. So if we have to wait every time to let the water boil, it's gonna take much longer than what it should. So what I did is I put these Brussels sprouts over top of a bowl, so when they strain, I can just shake all the water out, set it here, set our colander off to the side, grab our hot water, and pour it back into the pot. Since the water had been removed from the pot and it's lost some of its heat, what we're gonna do now is actually put the water back in there, put the lid on it, and reboil it. We still have one more step to do. So for our next step, we're actually going to take our beet and we're gonna remove the skin off the outside of it. However, before we do that, we're going to take our parchment paper and cover the cutting board primarily because I don't want to ruin the cutting board. But you'll see why. This beet, as you see when we're going to shave it, is going to basically bleed everywhere, and that's the beetroot, or what we could call beetroot juice. And interestingly, beetroot juice or beetroot coloring is used as an alternative to red coloring in a lot of foods now, just because it's a natural substance as opposed to normal red coloring, which I'm not going to tell you where it's from because you're going to be grossed out. So once we've hit this point, set it off to the side. Take all of this, throw it away. And because I'm a clean freak, I'm going to do it again. So now we're going to set this down here, put our beet in the middle, take our knife, and cut down the middle of it. It's a very dense vegetable, therefore you're going to press hard. A longer knife would be better for this purpose, just because you can get a lot more leverage on it. So once you have your half, what you're going to do, cut it in half again. Now you have a quarter, and try our best to cut that quarter in half. Now you have pretty nice pieces, which what we're going to do is we're actually going to leave them like this. This is how it's going to be served, and I'll show you why in the end. Set our knife off to the side. Grab our beets. Come over to our cutting board. Sorry, not our cutting board. Our stock pot. Make sure it's boiling. Cover it. And walk away for a little bit. So one of our final steps is we're actually going to cook this salmon. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So we're going to grab a wide saute pan, something with a lot of surface area. This is 12 inches. Set it over heat. We're actually going to put it over a medium-low heat. I'm going to take our fish and set it in that cold pan. Remember, we're doing this skin side down. And I'll explain why right here. So the reason we're doing this skin side down is because that salmon has that skin on it, and as the pan heats up, it's going to start to render or pull out all that fat. And instead of throwing fat in the pan and sauteing it like you normally would over high heat, when that fat renders, it gives a good cooking medium to actually cook the salmon in. So if we let it chill over there for over low heat for about 5 minutes, it's going to start to render all that fat out of it. And then once it's rendered some of the fat out of it, we're going to crank the heat up, and then it's going to start to saute, and you're going to get a nice, smooth, crisp skin on the back of it. It's going to be beautiful and delicious. So since our beets are done, we remove the lid, and we can actually see that the beet juice or the water that we boiled in is red, essentially. And basically that's the beet bleeding out into the water. So when the beets are done, we're going to take our colander with our bowl on the bottom of them, set them on our cutting board, come back over here, going to grab our beets, and once again we're going to pour away from ourselves very slowly, trying not to dump any of this beet juice anywhere. Set this off to the side. We're also going to set this off to the side to cool. And you'll see what I'm going to do with that later on. So the next thing we're going to do, since a lot of the fat has rendered out of the fish, we're actually going to flip it. So you can really use any spatula for this. This is actually called a fish spatula. As you can see, it's really narrow, really thin, and you have a lot of space for the fat and everything to drip through. But you can really use any spatula. So we're going to take this fish, we're going to slide under it really nicely, and we're going to flip it. And we're just going to let that chill for about 30 to 45 seconds. Then we're actually going to remove it and set it on a sheet pan with some parchment paper. We're actually going to finish it in the oven. Remember, we preheated that oven to 350 in the beginning. We're going to set the fish on there, preheat the oven to about 350 as I mentioned, but then cook it for another 5 to 7 minutes. So after this fish is cooked for a little bit, what we're gonna do, we're gonna grab it out of the pan. We're gonna flip it onto our sheet pan. And now you have a really nice sear on the back of this fish, really nice and golden brown. But before we put it in the oven, we'll take some lemon, squeeze some lemon over top of it, then throw it in the oven. So remember, we're gonna set a timer for about 5 minutes, then we're gonna check the temperature, see what it looks like. If we need to, we'll go to about 7 minutes. However, in the meantime, what we're gonna do is we're gonna see all this cooking liquid. We have all this fat that came out of the salmon. So what we're actually gonna do, take our golden beets. Sorry, not our golden beets, our red beets. And set them in here. Put them back over medium-low heat. Grab some of our salt. So we're gonna let that chill for about a minute on each side over low heat. And then we're gonna flip them another minute, and then we're gonna set them off to the side and get ready to plate. So now that our beets have been in the pans for about a minute on each side, 2 minutes total, we're actually going to pull them out, set them off to the side, because remember we still have our fish, our carrots, and our Brussels sprouts to cook. And since we're over here, and we kind of have this cooking medium left, all of this fat in here that we rendered from the salmon, we're gonna make this really simple. Throw the carrot in there. Throw the Brussels sprouts from earlier in there. Toss that around just to get everything nice and coated. Place it back over the heat. And now we're actually going to turn it up to about a saute temperature, which is higher heat or very high heat. So say your burner has, maybe you can divide it into quarters. We're going to set it about 3/4 right now, so that's higher heat. And one last step, we're going to take our salt mixture from earlier. Remember, this is salt and smoked paprika. You don't have to use the smoked paprika. However, I like it just because it adds another layer and more dynamic flavor to the dish. So I added about a half a teaspoon there. Next, we're gonna take some more of our lemon over top. And that would be about a teaspoon of lemon juice. And now our fish is done. Turn our timer off. We're going to grab it out of here. As you can see, when we touch the fish, it's still pretty firm, but you can see that it's soft. As you can see, there's some fat coming out, rendering right here. And I can just see, just by looking at it, it's just about done in the middle. When you press on the fish, you kind of want it to flake. Or, a good way to look at this is if you grab a thermometer. Take this thermometer, put it in the center. And actually, I was wrong, that's perfect. So now we have our salmon finish. We're gonna bring that over here. We have our carrots and Brussels sprouts finished. We're going to bring that right here. So we have 2 plates. By the way, these ceramic plates, they look awesome, beautiful for plating. The last thing we have to do is plate this. So as we're plating, let's talk omega-3s. So salmon is high in a fat known as omega-3s. But why are omega-3 fatty acids good? So, generally speaking, they're anti-inflammatory. Therefore, we find that a lot of chronic diseases such as diabetes, heart disease, cancer stem from inflammation or chronic inflammation. So consuming things such as high amounts of omega-3s can reduce that inflammation and reduce the indices of those diseases. In addition to that, for people in like the fitness world who are generally healthy, so to speak, consuming omega-3s is great because, I mean, if you're hitting the gym hard and consistently, you're gonna have long-term inflammation start to build up from that. Consuming enough omega-3s in your diet will kind of reduce that inflammation, allow you to go harder in the gym without pain. In addition to omega-3s, you generally want to have about 9 ounces of salmon a week, or 9 ounces of a fatty fish containing high amounts of omega-3. So you could do a sea bass, a tuna, or a salmon. And so 3 times a week, around 3 ounces per serving, so a total of 9 ounces per week, will generally get you around where you need to be. That's for the normal American, so if you're a 250-pound bodybuilder, you may want to double that. Or you can use supplementation, such as fish oil supplements, which are generally high in omega-3s, or krill oil supplements, which are high in omega-3s. So this is our final product. Take a bite of it. Cut into that beet, get in some of that Brussels sprout, carrot, take a bite of the salmon. That's incredible. Guys, I hope you liked this video. My name's Andy Barninger, and you can find me at The Performance Chef. Stay tuned for more content from Myotrend.